This question is one that I think has at one time haunted every single one of us that has ever been cheated on. It reads, after I found out he had cheated and left him, I still get jealous of his new relationship with the woman he cheated on me with. After the breakup, he didn't seem to care, and it looked like he was happy I broke up with him. It's been 6 months, and I haven't dated anyone since, and a jerk like him has someone who loves him. I can't help but to feel jealousy and wish their relationship would end. I have no contact with him and therefore don't know much about how he is doing and what's going on in his life. But the thought of him being with someone better than me kills me. The thought that his friends and family like her more and that I'm meaningless to him haunts me. I just can't believe I meant so little for him to lie to me daily and not care after I left. He tried to convince me to stay the morning I broke up with him, but after I went home that morning, he never reached out again. How do I move past this? Whew, there's a lot in there to dig into. And again, I think that for all of us that have been cheated on, we feel that because we take that rejection so personally, and all of that paints everything that we're experiencing. So, first, I just want to say I'm proud of you for not keeping tabs on him. That is so important, and you are giving yourself such a big gift. For those of you that are struggling with not keeping up with your ex, you're causing yourself more pain. You're causing yourself needless pain. And once you have seen those images or read those words, you cannot unsee them. You can't eliminate the pain that you're feeling right now, but you can give yourself the gift of not contributing needlessly to it. Okay, so I'm going to take this sort of a piece at a time. First is it's so easy for us to compare our internal world with somebody else's external world. And so we see them with this other person, or like in your case, it sounds like you're sort of imagining this life that they have, and you're comparing how you're feeling. You're comparing your heartbreak. You're comparing your endless nights, your tear-stained cheeks to this imagined happy life that he's having. And those aren't the same things. You know what's happening in your inner world. You don't know what's happening in his. And what I'm noticing is that you're prescribing a lot of motivations or intent behind some of his actions when you don't necessarily know them. You mentioned that he seemed happy that you broke up with him, but you don't actually know what he's really feeling. You mentioned friends and family liking her more than they like you, but you don't actually know that this is the case. So what I'm noticing is that you're sort of assigning the worst case scenario to all of these things. And that's natural. I mean, when you've been rejected like this, we do get to that place where it feels like everything is a personal assault on us. But I want you to try to take a step back and try to entertain some alternate hypotheses to the conclusions that you've reached. Maybe he hasn't reached out because it's hard for him to see how much he hurt you. Maybe the friends and family miss you desperately and think that he's made the dumbest decision of his life. Maybe the relationship that he's in now that it's getting past that fantasy stage, maybe he's now starting to realize that, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. This person isn't this image that I created in my mind. Now, none of those could be true, or all of them could be, or most likely there's some truth in all of those. But the important part is to keep your brain from automatically assuming the worst with all of these things. Now, one of the exercises that I did when I was going through all of this myself is I started with whatever that assumption was that I had. And many of mine were very similar to yours. And then what I did is I would write down the facts of it, the actual facts, which It was very interesting sometimes to see my assumptions and then right below it, see what I actually knew. And I could then see in black and white kind of that leap that I had taken. And then what I would do is underneath the facts is I would brainstorm as many different explanations for those facts as I could. And some of them were worse than the initial assumption that I had made, but many of them actually made me feel much better. And by doing this day after day for months, I started to retrain my brain to no longer leap to that assumption that was the most painful and just start to be a little more open about it, to willingly say, I don't know. And it was amazing. The more that I said, I don't know, the less obsessed I was about those details. And I would really love for you to do this exercise, focusing on that whole idea that she is somehow better than you. The more and more people that I've talked to on all sides of infidelity, it's amazing to me how often the affair partner is merely a fantasy. They are this projection of what the person wants. They are this sort of antithesis to the married stable life. They are the other, and that's what makes them interesting. And then because of the constraints of an affair where connection is limited and they don't have to deal with sort of the realities of day-to-day life with this person, that fantasy is allowed to continue. And then so often what happens if they actually enter into a relationship is that fantasy fades away, like it does for all of us, because that affair partner isn't some perfect, person. They are real and messy, just like all of us. And sometimes with some distance, you can even find this almost comical. So in my situation, my ex-husband complained about me being vegetarian and even cited that as one of the reasons that he cheated and abandoned me. But the other woman that he married, well, she was a vegan. So even more extreme than I was. And there were so many situations just like that, where he was complaining about something in me, and yet this other person that he chose was even more extreme in those same metrics. And so at first, I completely was comparing myself to her and thinking that she was somehow better. And then in time, I started to realize how based in fiction his choice really was, and that it wasn't something for me to waste any time thinking about. And then you asked, how do I move past this? And that is a big question. In fact, that is really the heart of what I have been writing and speaking about for the last 11 years. So I'm going to share this with you. When my ex cheated on me and abandoned me, at first I saw his happiness and my happiness as like two sides of a seesaw. And I thought that in order for me to be happy, in order for me to thrive, I needed him to be doing poorly. And so I looked for ways to make him suffer. At first, that was through the court systems. I wanted him to have to pay either through civil court or through criminal court. And then those didn't happen. And then I sort of waited, and I was hoping that karma would come by and that this perfect life that it looked like he had would somehow fall apart. And then I got to this point where our legal divorce had happened. And I had a choice. It was really a crossroads. I could continue to wait for that karma and keep up with him and hope that something bad would happen to him, that he would have to feel some piece of what I was feeling. Or I could let go of all of that. And instead of trying to bring him down or hoping that he would be down, I could instead focus on my well-being and on elevating myself as much as I could. And that was the decision that I made. I never looked up him again. I had no idea what was going on, but it didn't matter because I realized that we weren't really these two sides of a seesaw. It was him separate, and what I did and how I was doing was completely independent of him if, and this is the key, if that was the decision that I made. And so that was my choice. I cut that seesaw And I worked on building up my life to the point that I didn't give his a second thought. And that's where I'd love to see you at. You matter. Your happiness matters. Whatever he is doing, whoever he is with, has no bearing on your life now. Let that go and focus on you.